one like this, and one like this.
1, 2, 3.
And then I use this guy too.
Wait, which
4.
ones you doing? How many, sir?
1, 2, 3.
1, 2.
But he likes this one too, so maybe.
And then I can use, if I'm tied up with this one, I can use this one. But I usually won't use it unless I have to. All right, let's start off with this one.
Start for number 2.
May I come in between with my
This is the left side of the brain. The right side's a little different. Let me turn it over like this so we can look at them both. The left side of the human brain has two striking features: Broca's area and Wernicke's area. If you go to the right side, you don't have those. Right? So if it's the left side of the brain and I put a pin here, you say Broca's area. If I put a pin here, you simply say frontal lobe.
Well, there's
the
not
cerebrum.
much difference to see, though.
So you saying that this is the left, right? And so right
Yes.
here, okay.
Wernicke's area, parietal lobe. Got it?
When we just look at that, you tell left by.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right.
That's how I tell it.
Got
You
it.
can't touch it on the
Yeah,
test.
thanks.
All right, other questions? Central sulcus, precentral gyrus, postcentral gyrus, auditory gyrus. Right? And of course, I can ask any lobe, but I usually don't ask much on that. Cerebrum, cerebellum. All of this is cerebrum. All of this is gray matter too, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's pretty easy. Olfactory bulb, pineal gland, pituitary gland. There you go. Pons, medulla oblongata, vermis lateralis, and of course frontal lobe ends right here, parietal lobe ends right here, occipital lobes, temporal lobes, right?
What is the occipital end? Is it right?
It's very hard to draw it out here. It's what's under the occipital bone.
Okay.
What determining factor are you using today?
Central sulcus will separate the frontal from the parietal. And then the parietal goes back here, so it just barely catches the Wernicke's, right? Then the occipital comes up and barely catches the Wernicke's. And then the temporal comes back here and barely catches Wernicke's. So Wernicke's is where all three touch. They feed it in, and Wernicke's comes up with the image, right? It's a primary area.
Is it
Central
right, Is it
sulcus?
right here?
Or central sulcus?
That vermicus?
Central sulcus is the one in the middle.
No.
Precentral gyrus is this mountain here. Postcentral gyrus is this mountain here. This one is motor, and this one is sensory. Well, that's physiology.
Okay.
Right? Now we can do this and this kind of side by side so you get an idea. Right, this is called the neocortex. And this part here is called the cingulate gyrus, right? You can see it here. This is the neocortex on the outside. And this part on the inside is the cingulate gyrus, spelled with a C, C-I-N-G-U-L-A-T-E. That's part of the limbic cortex. Corpus callosum. Fornix. That's where the word fornicate comes from. Right? Fornix, right here, this white thing. This window here is called the septum pellucidum.
Okay.
Hand me the ventricles.
Oh, the gray ones.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah. And you see where they unite right here?
Mm-hmm.
That's the septum pellucidum. It's the window between the two ventricles, left and right lateral. This is the third ventricle. You can see it right here. Maybe it's better to go to this guy here.
More detail.
Third ventricle, and inside the third ventricle is this little structure right here. You can see it's inside right there. It's called the intermediate mass of the thalamus. intermediate mass of the thalamus. I like to call it the interthalamic adhesion. I love those.
What is the
it?
intermediate foramen? Is that same
don't
thing?
Don't know of such a thing. The pretty colored stuff is the choroid plexus. It produces the cerebrospinal fluid. This is the optic chiasma. This is the pituitary gland with the infundibulum of the hypothalamus. So this is hypothalamus. Let me go through these membranes. The outermost membrane right here is called the dura mater. It even goes around the pituitary gland, which means the pituitary gland is in the brain.
Is that all the way down?
Yeah, dura mater. These are cranial or dura maters, and these are spinal. They call them meninges, right?
Mm-hmm.
Meninx for singular. The pretty purple one is called the arachnoid.
The
Meninx.
spider? Oh, the spider web?
Yeah. And then the one on the inside that's white is called the pia mater. Right? The pituitary is only surrounded by dura mater. The others are on the inside, so it's not totally inside. This canal, this is the third ventricle. This is called the cerebral aqueduct in some books. Your book calls it the mesencephalic aqueduct. And it goes to this, which is the fourth ventricle. And then the fourth ventricle extends into the cerebral, into the spinal or central canal that goes down here. Right? This is the orba vitae of the cerebellum. This is the pons. Oh, and these swellings right here. This is the pineal gland, also known as the epithalamus. And this part right here, you can see better here, and you can see it on the brainstem. And that's called the corpora quadragemina. Right? And this is the pineal gland right here, see? Or epithalamus, corpora quadragemina. You with those? You got them?
Mm-hmm.
And on this, the brain stem, I generally ask this peanut thing right here, which is the thalamus, the optic chiasma, and my two favorite questions are these. This round thing right here, which is called the cerebral peduncle. Massive chunk of white matter that feeds directly into the corpus callosum. And if you reach in there and you kind of cut through the nose, you kind of cut this, you disconnect the brain from the body. Right? They call that a lobotomy.
Oh, wow.
Speaking
Okay.
of lobotomy, I always say it's for serial killers that strangle people so they can't get their hands to work right. Yeah. This one that's cut around here is the cerebellar peduncle. So cerebral peduncle, cerebellar peduncle, right? Pons, medulla oblongata. The only cranial nerves I tend to ask are these three: the olfactory, the optic, and this one, the oculomotor. Got it?
Mm-hmm.
So that's that. We can